Hello there, it's Kendall. If you're new around here, welcome. If you're not new around here, what is up, home? Kill a biscuit. I come bearing thoughts, opinions, and salsa. Yes, you've clicked on another video about Squid Game. So you're gonna get another video about Squid Game. So I, like the rest of the world, have been completely enamored with Squid Game. And I finished my second viewing a few days ago. And I watched it with a friend of mine who was watching it for the first time. I realized while we were watching the same content, we came out with very different opinions. And apparently, according to Twitter, I have some hot takes. It's not the first time. I was like, come on. People wanted to know, like, Kendall, how do you have these opinions? And so I figure I'll just make a whole video on Squid Game and just like general thoughts I have about the show, particularly certain characters. Because again, apparently, I have some hot takes. I was supposed to be doing this while drinking some wine. Spoiler, this video is sponsored by Bright Sellers. But I can't do that because I ate so many cider mill donuts that my tummy is very upset with me. I don't know how it will be after eating hot salsa, but so without further ado, I'll just send it away to Admiral Kennie that had a more settled stomach. Hello everyone, it's Admiral Kennie to let you know that today's video is sponsored by Bright Sellers, the monthly wine club that allows you to discover your new favorite wine. Bright Sellers helps you along the journey of discovering new wines and what fits your tastes, what fits your food preferences, etc. by giving you a quiz, which actually really helps you land on wines that are great. Do you like dark chocolate, white chocolate, milk chocolate? Do you like your tea with a lot of sugar or no sugar or honey instead? Do you like your coffee black? Do you like it cold? Do you like it hot? And then somehow they're able to give you wines that fit your preferences. And they've been right for me every single time. It's still baffling to me. Don't know how they do it. But if along the way you get a wine that you don't really care for, they will replace it for free in the next delivery if you just let them know. One of my favorite parts are the education cards. Everything you need to know about each wine. I've been really liking to use these, one, to learn more about wine in general, but if I ever give a bottle away to a friend or am considering giving them away, I just let them look at the cards and then they go through it, see what sounds good to them, and then they're also able to pick based off of that, and I think that's really, really cool. Now, you can't have a wine integration without drinking some. This is Watchkeeper, a 2020 dry white from California. Why is this bottle so beautiful? Can we just talk about the art on this? This is gorgeous. This one has notes of grapefruit, lemon, lime zest, and citrus blossom. And this one is recommended for soft cheeses, sushi, or sashimi platters. I personally took my first sip of this when I made tikka masala pasta. I'm not usually a huge dry wine person, but this one is very well balanced. It doesn't just taste like drinking sawdust. So that's why it pairs so well with things like cheese, something very dairy. I feel like it would be good to balance that out. So if you would like to check out Bright Sellers, they're actually doing a promotion right now that allows you to get 60% off your first 4-bottle box if you use my link down below. Big thanks again to Bright Sellers for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on to the debauchery. One day I'll figure out which direction to point it. Also, it does work out that I'm not going to be drinking in this video because, again, I have things to get very heated about. Because I have so much to say, I figured that I would handle this Squid Game video in a very Jenny Nicholson style, i.e. in a YouTube-friendly numbered list. Spoilers and controversial opinions ahead, so can't say I didn't warn you. Chapter 1. The story. 오징어 Game, or Squid Game, is directed and written by Hwang Dong-hyuk, and it centers around 456 people, all of which are in crippling debt for various reasons, who go to a very fucked up version of summer camp. Over the course of 6 days, they play 6 childhood games, like red light, green light, or marbles, or tug of war. However, they sauce it up because if you lose, 탈락, you get eliminated. And you also get killed. So perhaps the most interesting component is that from games 2 through 6, anyone that is actually playing in the game are playing them after having an opportunity to leave and come back on their own free will after seeing like a giant massacre after the first game. And so for every person that comes back, there's kind of this implicit understanding that whatever's going on in their life is worse to some degree than what's going on inside the games, worse than the opportunity they see through the games themselves. Because for anyone that wins the game, they can win up, I think it was 47 billion won, which is equivalent to like 30 something million dollars, a little less than maybe 38, I don't know math, $1 million. Towards the end, we discover that the games are actually a sort of sporting event for foreign rich elites called the VIPs, who come and observe these poor and desperate people fight to the death. It's a great critique on capitalism, on the mega rich, on the exploitation of the poor and the sick, and it's great. I think it's a great show. I've seen it compared to some other shows that have a similar premise. I have yet to watch those, but I'm interested, so it'd be cool to come back to this and maybe see which ones I prefer. For the most part, it's a very solid show. There are some things that are a little like, what? But for the most part, it's nothing that takes me out of the story itself. That's my very, very brief review of the show itself, because that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm gonna be talking about characters today, particularly characters that I like that apparently other people don't, or not that I like, that I understand that other people apparently don't, and then a person that I can't stand that nobody gives enough heat, in my opinion. Chapter 2. Main characters. So the main character is Gihun. He's played by Lee Jung-jae. It's so hard to say his name for some. Lee Jung-jae. There you go. And as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be up, because I've never seen Lee Jung-jae in something that wasn't at least a little bit fucked up. So we're still on track for that. Gihun is a chauffeur, but we never see him do his job. He has a very severe gambling addiction. He lives with his ailing mother and struggles to be present for his 10-year-old daughter now that she's living with his now ex-wife and her new husband. Cho Sang-woo, he is the head of an investment team at a securities company, and he is like a year younger than Kyun, and they went to the same high school, but he graduated and was able to go to Seoul National University, which is like the Harvard or Yale of Korea. Kyun has a big habit of reminding us that the entire show, and it's incredibly annoying. However, he ends up at the games because he embezzled a crap ton of money. He's actually wanted by the police. That's fun. So I'm sure he's planning to use that money to pay off most of his debts, or just to go missing, which is what I'd do. If I were him, like, just be gone. Change my whole face, be a whole new person. Next is Ali Abdul. I love Ali. I knew he wasn't gonna survive. He was brown and sweet. I knew he wasn't gonna make it. But Ali is an undocumented Pakistani worker in like a steel mill or something like that. And he's there trying to provide for his family. He lost his job because he ended up with a fight with his boss who refused to pay him and ended up crushing his fingers off. So now he's kind of like on the run. So he's trying to make money for his family in the only way he knows how. Next, we have Kang Se-byuk. She's gorgeous. That's the first thing I need to put up. Gorgeous. Oh my God. I'm like, wow, this really intimidating. You're like incredibly pretty. Anyway, but in this, she plays a North Korean defector who is trying to get money to get her younger brother out of an orphanage, and also to help her mother, who is still in the North, be able to escape North Korea and settle in South Korea with her and her brother. I almost didn't even want to put him in here because I find him very pointless. Not super, very apathetic towards this person, but a lot of people think he's hot, so I guess I should talk about him. There's Hwang Juno, or the police officer. He's mostly just there to show us the inner workings of the games themselves, because he sneaks in. But he goes in there to try to find his brother, who apparently had participated in the game. So he hasn't seen his brother in years, and he's going in to try to find him. We don't really learn anything about him as a person. He's just kind of there to give us that information, and that's about it. I find him very pointless. And also, a lot of people think he's really hot. I find him just like a guy. Maybe that's just me. Okay, another hot take. There's Chung Tok-soo, who's a dick. Just an awful human being. He joins the games because he has an incredible amount of gambling debt, and now he's on the run from the Filipino mafia. I didn't know there was I need to look into mafias because they're everywhere apparently. I found out about the Chinese mafia, the Jewish mafia. There's all of y'all all over the place. I need to look into that. Anyway, that sounds interesting. Anyway, there's Han Min-yo, who's equally as annoying as Tok-soo, just so unlikable. We don't really know anything about her. She's just very annoying, but according to Wikipedia, she is, quote, a mysterious and manipulative woman who claims to be a poor single mother. And that's all we get. We don't learn anything from her other than she's very disgusting. She went into, I'm sorry, I just have to talk about this because I hate this scene so much. She smuggles a pack of cigarettes up her pussy when she decided to come back to the games. And I'm sitting there like, all the things you could have smuggled up your pussy to help you with this game, you bought cigarettes? You weren't thinking big enough. You weren't thinking you weren't thinking long term, and that bothers me. Like, anyway. And finally, O Ilam, who is the old man, who has a brain tumor and dementia, who desires to play the game instead of just dying on the outside. It made him feel alive again. Through the course of the series, there is teamwork, internal adversary, betrayal, as well as considerations around the collective, the individual, while playing child games to the death. There's this horridly nostalgic sense about it that I find very fascinating. I think the component of making them explicitly kids games is really f***ed up in the sense that it's like, wow, you turn my childhood into a nightmare. That's fun. But yeah, it was really good at making characters very hateable for me, which is a skill. I feel like it's a skill to make an effectively hateable character. And this series just does it again and again and again and again. So before we get on to that though, let's talk about people I like. Chapter 3, people I like. Ali. I love Ali. He was just too sweet and trusting for this world, so I knew he wouldn't survive. Still hurt. I really appreciated that Ali was there and presented just as sympathetically, if not more so, than any of the other characters there, in the sense that, you know, usually darker skinned people are seen as violent or dirty or awful. You know, there's also an element with him being Pakistani that could have really gone away with that. And I've seen it happen in Korean media before, not anytime recently, but I haven't been paying attention in years, so maybe that's why. I'm really happy that people weren't terrible, and also that he was able to be a soft figure. In media in general, it's really hard sometimes to find darker skinned people presented in a way that is tender and kind and sympathetic innocence about him, that I found very refreshing, to be honest with you. He's kind of presented as this sort of sacrificial lamb, or even an angelic figure, compared to all of these people who in some way are just kind of jaded or nihilistic even to their circumstances, whereas he's just kind of this very pure and trusting figure. And that's also why I knew he wasn't going to survive, because this ain't the game for that. And it sucks, because again, I loved him. I thought he was so sweet. After that is Sebyok, because again, she's just really pretty. Like, it was distracting. I was like, my God, she's gorgeous. But beyond that, I just feel like if I was gonna be anyone in the game, I'd probably be her or one other character, which I'll get to later, because I feel like she's how I would probably have played the games. Very guarded, you know, standoffish, really focused on the goal and not necessarily to build camaraderie or alliances. She does end up making connections with people, but she's not as willing to do that as other characters seem to be. And I feel like that's how I would be in this circumstance. I, you know, kind of no nonsense, kind of not talking to people. She got knocked off as a fluke to me. For the games to be so focused on fairness, I find it interesting how she was initially injured. I didn't find that particularly fair, but cool, whatever. Next up is Frontman. I have nothing to say to that other than Lee Byung-hun. I've never seen a movie with Lee Byung-hun in it that I didn't like. By the way, if you haven't seen and you think you can stomach Angmaru Poata, I Saw the Devil, highly recommend it. Very good movie. Great revenge, horror, thriller, crime movie. Gong-yu, who plays the salesman, I would just like to know, is there like an application to be slapped by him in the face? Do I send a letter? Like, dear Gong-yu, can you beat me like I stole something? He is so fine, and he's still so fine. He get finer every time I see him. I don't have anything to add to this, by the way. It's him as a character. I just want to say that Gong-yu is so fine. And finally, the last character I like, whom will have his own chapter coming up, and is apparently my most controversial opinion in regards to Squid Game. Chapter 4, A Defense of Sangwoo. I'm getting like very Scorpio and or Capricorn placement vibes with Sangwoo, and maybe that's why I resonate to some degree with his thinkings around things. And apparently a lot of people were like, are you serious? He's the devil. He's a snake. He's so untrustworthy. He has no loyalty. Sangwoo was the character that me and a friend got in a very long heated discussion about. I feel like most people kind of think of Sangwoo, or maybe not. Maybe it's just the people I've seen on my timeline, but a lot of people have said to me how they really consider Sangwoo, if not the villain, a major villain of Squid Game. And I'm assuming this is because in some way or another, he either explicitly or implicitly killed off two of our favorite characters, Ali and Sebyok, right? He tricked Ali while they were playing marbles, and that ended in his death. And then he just slit Sebyok's throat while she was already bleeding out. And though emotionally, I understand why people don't like him and why people think of him as a villain. But I can't bring myself to be mad at him at all. I was gonna say fully be mad. I'm not angry at all at him because it makes so much sense to me. He's this, he's that, he's whatever. And I'm like, okay, your point? Like what? Maybe it's two different questions then. Some people are like, I understand where he came from, but I still don't like him, which is one thing. But some people are like, how could you do that? You're so disloyal. You're such a snake. You're such a liar, blah, blah, blah. Those people, y'all confuse me, and y'all have a very, very, very beautiful view of life. And I wonder what it's like to be so naive. It sounds great. But Sangwoo as a character, no betrayal, no like calculation, no manipulation, no trickery that he did is something that I can honestly say to you in that same circumstance I would not do. Which is why I would never go to the game, because that would make me feel bad. However, if I were already there, if you lose this Uno game, we gonna shoot you in the face, and I can figure out a way to cheat in Uno, you bet your ass I'm a cheat. I think what people are forgetting to some degree is that there is a particular mindset you have to be in to willingly go to these games, right? These are all people who are in crippling debt. Sangwoo was about to kill himself right before he came back to it, so he's not giving up too much, you know. The games themselves require something very specific of you to be both homicidal and suicidal. While joining these games, you understand, one, for you to survive, everyone else must die. So you must be comfortable enough with someone else's death, a lot of someone else's deaths. You must be okay with 455 people dying for you to succeed. And you also have to feel like whatever life you're living outside is worth leaving to enter this game. You must be willing to die to play this game. Sangwoo is both of those things. Everyone else are those things, but a lot of them are acting like they're not those things, which is very disingenuous and confusing to me. If you aren't either of those things, you shouldn't be here. Like, you should not be playing these games. You have something to live for outside that you cannot risk losing your life for those things. You are deeply uncomfortable with your success resulting in the death of 455 people. So everyone in there, either explicitly or implicitly, have to understand that to go. Sangwoo, for some reason though, feels like the only person that truly understands that. Well, Toksu does too, because he just goes shanking. But outside of the people that are just like chaotic evil, I mean like the calculating, neutral, if anything. I tweeted at length about how much I don't understand the Sangwoo hate. I don't get it. He has no loyalty. He tricked Ali. What about teamwork? Bitch, this ain't summer camp. Nigga, this is Squid Game. Why does this shock people in this context? Like, I don't understand. Like, yes, he's going to betray people because the game itself is a portrayal of those friendships, right? God forbid both of y'all survive to the end, you gonna be shanking a friend. Why does this surprise people? What he did to Ali, I was like, that's f***ed up. I get it though. That's literally what my response was. It stopped me from feeling super sad actually about Ali dying. I was like, well, you shouldn't have been so nice. Been so kind and trusting. You should not have been here. Like, people bring up how he's just shady and how he's so underhanded. Would you not be if you had the capacity to be in this context? Again, this is not just losing some money. This is losing your life. I will cheat, steal, and I would start biting this. But I appreciate that Sangwoo had more tact and more calculation. He knew his odds. His odds were better to befriend and then to go break off afterwards, and that makes sense to me. He didn't help Gihun in the Targona game, the sugar game, and I was like, this isn't an issue of being a monster. It's like, do you want to be directly involved in killing your childhood best friend, or would you prefer to let that up to odds and whatever his skill set is, or whatever the fates decide? You know what I mean? It's a fucked up situation, but it's a fucked up game. What do you expect? I understand him tricking Ali because, again, he was gonna lose. He either figures out how to win or he dies. When he pushed the dude on the glass game, he was taking too long. When he stabbed Sebyuk, she was taking too long. She was dying anyway. The only thing that he did do that didn't really make sense to me was kill himself at the end, because I felt like we spent the whole series building him as the type of person that would not do that. Especially towards the end, he was so like determined and intelligent, he wouldn't have to do that. But I guess they did that to show that he had some remorse when it came to Gihun, because the main character is Gihun, so of course he's gonna win. So it's like this childhood showdown or whatever, circle of life or whatnot. So I guess it's supposed to show that he has some form of soft spot still for his friend. And also thematically, it makes Gihun into this more morally untainted person because he didn't take someone's life with his own hands the entire game. Which, whatever. So that, for all intents and purposes, turns Gihun into an actual hero of the game, hero of the show even, which, spoiler, I f***ing hate. Chapter 5, characters I hate. Toksu and Minya. I'm just gonna group them together because I hate them for similar reasons. They're just very annoying. They both look like they stank. Even though, in fairness, everyone probably would in this context, but still, they just look particularly stank. Anytime I see them on camera, I just sit there and my nose like instinctually flare up, like to brace myself. I found their storyline generally, again, stank. I did not care until towards the end, where she was gonna get her revenge, and then when the revenge came, I was like, grabbed him by the waist and was like, we will die together. And it's like, y'all been there for 4 or 5 days? I have nothing more to say about them. They're just very annoying. But they were supposed to be unlikable, so I get it. But the next two people I have a lot more to say about. I feel like these two are the true villains of this show, and I don't, again, hear enough about them, at least on my timeline. I don't see a lot of people talking about just how awful both of these people are. Old man Ilham. I have never wanted to f up an old man.
I love the young people.
Not only not dead from when he lost his game on episode 6, but he's also the head VIP that actually puts on the games. He decided to join the games because he does indeed have a brain tumor, but he wanted to play the games basically out of sheer boredom. He's just incredibly rich and bored with his life, and he wanted a new way to spice things up, having a kind of horse race with humans, at the end of which someone's shot was just the way to do it. I don't think he could have volunteered or something. The interesting thing about him being so awful is that the first time I saw the reveal, I don't know if it's because I watched the whole thing in one night the first time, so I was a little delirious. I was kind of exhausted by the time I got to the last episode. But I, for some reason, didn't like fully comprehend how terrible Ilham actually is until my second viewing, actually. I think there is like a deceptive element about him in the sense that there's this like very somber music playing when he dies, and it's very like weirdly like he's a familial figure who's caused a lot of trauma for Gihun. And you see this like weak old man dying, which he is a weak old man who is dying. I don't know, it was hard for me, again, I was half asleep, to really conceptualize just how awful this man was until I was fully conscious. He gives this whole speech about like how poor people and rich people have one thing in common, that their lives are incredibly boring. And this was his creative way of feeling alive again. Oh, the children. I don't know, you could open your f***ing purse. Now, me personally, I would have pulled the plug as soon as he said that. Just say, oop, I tripped over. Oop, I couldn't figure out where to plug it back in. Oop, you know? But he basically like relinquishes all responsibility for the games because he didn't force anybody to play, as if he didn't specifically predate on vulnerable and desperate people. Until his dying breath, he bets on whether a man out in the cold will be helped by another person. That's his final thing he does. He bets on a homeless man to see if he'll die in the cold. Yeah, so again, pull the plug, just oop, just oop, just oop, oop, pull the plug. Oh, I just fell and smothered him with a pillow. Oh my God. Also, he didn't have dementia either. So yeah, Ilham can suck a fat one. And as much as I deeply hate him for the reasons that matter, truly, he is the bigger villain, for instance, of the show. I would say he's the ultimate, you know, boss battle, old man evil. But I'd be lying if I said that he's the character that makes me the maddest. And I'd be lying if I said that he's the character I hate the most, because he's not. Chapter 6, Gihun. Just the most unlikable nigga, and not enough people are talking about that for my liking. Find it interesting that because he is the main character, we kind of look over a lot of his flaws, I think. I think we're aware of them, but as he shows that he's fundamentally a good person, has a moral compass throughout the games, we kind of forget that he is just the worst. The most I kind of see that reprimands him for anything that he does in the whole show is people will kind of cheekily say that he's a deadbeat dad, which he is. He's a terrible father. He's a terrible son. But the thing I hate most about Gihun is that he is so self-righteous and for no goddamn reason. At the beginning of the show, Gihun is stealing money out of his poor and ailing mother, diabetes, her feet about to run away on their own. He takes that money, he goes to the racetrack, bets it, loses all of her money and his money there. With his last $10, he doesn't buy his daughter's birthday present, but with the money that he could have used to buy her the one thing that she actually asked for, he bets it at a claw game, and he ends up getting her one gift. Well, he doesn't end up getting it. A nearby child who's really good at it gets it, gives it to his daughter, and it's a gun-shaped lighter that she doesn't even keep. He takes it, and I'm sitting there like, so I guess she gets no gift. You're taking her gift. Like, she got no gift. She didn't get what she asked for. So we learn very quickly of his just deep incompetence. His ex-wife's new husband offers him money to stop traumatizing his child. Like, leave her be. She's good, but you have done nothing good for her. And he gets angry because, you know, it's his right to disappoint his own daughter, I suppose. I guess to some degree he's correct about that. He goes to the games to get money for his sick mom, who doesn't have the money for surgery for her diabetic foot because he ended their insurance, and also to have enough money to prove to courts that his daughter should stay in Korea because he could take care of her. And because Gihun is the main character, ding, 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 he wins the game. But the thing that bothers me so much about Gihun is that he won the game completely free of his own merit. He did nothing to win this game. He had no talent. He had no smarts. He had no strength. He was literally the bottom of the barrel, which is probably why he's 456. It makes me hate him so much because not only is he at the bottom of the barrel, he's also incredibly high and mighty and with this weird sense of honor that he doesn't even uphold. He's a hypocrite. That's why I hate him. He literally wins the game because everybody else does what they need to do and he just reaps all the benefits. Red light, green light, Sangwoo gave him advice and Ali saved him. He did do the Targolna game by himself, but to be honest with you, I don't even think that would actually work in real life. Like, I don't even think that's how the laws of physics would operate in that game. So I don't even know if I could give that to him. Tug of war, Ilham gave advice on how to do it. The glass bridge, he was the last one there. So literally every person that died in front of him did him a solid. And the person who ultimately saves him during that game is Sangwoo, who pushes over the glassmaker so that there's enough time for all three of them to go to the end of the bridge. The only time Gihun does anything himself is when he cheats. He's in a situation where he's about to lose this game and therefore lose his life. And in a desperate situation, what does he do? What anybody else would do? He cheated. Now, like I said before, that man was Ilham, who ended up actually being alive. But he doesn't know that. So as far as he knew, he just cheated and sent a demented man off to get shot. But he did it because he understood that if he didn't, he would die. Now, as I said in the Sangwoo section, I completely understand that. I would have done it too. I saw an opening to cheat, I would have done it, and I would take it every single time. That old I've known him for 4 days. But what blows me, when Sangwoo pushes the glassmaker because he was taking too long, suddenly Gihun is this grand moral authority. He's just like, how could you do that? And he judges Sangwoo for that. You just sent an old man off to get shot. Maybe what, a day or two ago? And you seem to be forgetting that? As if you've been like this hyper moral authority at this time. Like what? He is just the most incredible hypocrite. He judges Sangwoo for doing things that ultimately saved his life. And that's just one of the many places where he benefits from the actions, ideas, suggestions, strengths of other people. But he, for some reason, doesn't seem to truly comprehend that. So he gets on this like moral high horse as if he's done anything different from Sangwoo. Again, y'all both in a game where you understand that to win this game, gonna have to die. And one of those would have been you if Sangwoo didn't push him. We were running out of time. It would not have been enough time for you to come across the bridge if I didn't start pushing. And you know, Sangwoo says as much. He's like, how are you judging me just because I'm the only person who's willing to get my hands dirty? You do understand that while we're here, everyone else will have to die.
형 손에 피 안 묻히게 해줬으면 오히려 고마워해야 되는 거 아니야?
Even at the very end of the game, he didn't even do that. He didn't even... I'm getting hot because I really don't like Gihun. Gihun pisses me off. He didn't even win Squid Game. Sangwoo killed himself. Again, that doesn't make any sense to me, like story-wise, but I feel like they did that to suggest that, again, Gihun is in some way a moral superior to Sangwoo, and ultimately this is some way for Sangwoo to vindicate himself from the things that he's done up until this point, which is stupid because he has nothing to be ashamed of, because how else were you to survive? But okay, cool. But he kills himself so that now, again, Gihun is this uncorrupted moral figure, so to speak. At no point is Gihun legitimately a good person. Just reaps the benefits of other people's actions and ideas, and God forbid at any point he has to take responsibility for something and actually carry through with actions. He drops the ball every single time. You care so much about Saebyuk, you're crying that she died, and the only thing she asked for you to do is to look after her brother. Get her brother out of the orphanage. It takes a whole year to be like, oh yeah, I forgot I should help that kid, I guess. He was too slow to get back to save his mama. Maybe if he were pushing, yelling at Sangwoo for pushing people, and maybe if he would have pushed people quicker, you would have got there in time, but no. Oh, Sangwoo's mom too. That's all he wanted him to do either, and he, again, took a hot ass year. And when he came back, he just brought her a child. Like, said, here, this is yours. You know what I mean? Like, what? And she's just cool with it, and he just gives her a trunk of money, and it's like, it's what? Playing the game with Ilham, he plays the game, betting on this man's life as opposed to maybe going to help him himself. Like, and then finally, when the option to finally be a present and decent father to his child is presented to him, he returns to the games. I'm sure this is to some degree supposed to be illustrative of how he's still very much so an addict and how destructive that component of his life is. But I think the thing that makes me so frustrated about Gihun as a person is that, one, he learned nothing. He learned not a damn thing this entire game. And I think the reason why he didn't learn a damn thing is because, again, he didn't really do any, like, of course, it's a very traumatic situation, but as far as like planning and helping and like doing things, he didn't do, like, again, he just reaped benefits of other people constantly in some way or another saving his ass. And what bothers me is that despite that truth being the case, you have not grown as a person at all. He has this weird moral high ground on the actions of other people from which he benefits. He won because he had main character armor because of luck and other people getting their hands dirty. I don't really know to what extent I'm supposed to really sympathize with Gihun. To some degree, his moral superiority is for us to see him as a better person, but I don't. I actually find him incredibly hypocritical. I find him the deepest asshole. And though, again, Ilham is the true evil here, I can't help but hate Gihun more. Undeserved superiority complex. And because he's the main character, so we're forced to just be with him all the time. And I just find him so deeply unlikable. That's my That's my thoughts on him. He can eat a dick. Chapter 7, Final Thoughts. So yeah, I really like Squid Game. I think it really serves as a great like distillation of capitalism and how predatory systems can be towards those most vulnerable. I do find it, as a side note, that Korean media tends to have a very nuanced take on criticism towards capitalism. I really like generally work that I've seen that capitalizes on issues with capitalism. There is one part that I deeply disliked though, and that was they did fall into some like gay predator trope that I found very distasteful and unnecessary. I remember even like while I was live tweeting it, I was like, oh, we've been doing so great. You didn't have to do that. Also, there's no one else in the show who is openly gay, so this is the only gay representation in this show, and I just found it very distasteful. I wasn't a fan of that at all. But overall, I do really enjoy the show. I deeply hope they don't do a season 2. I feel like it's a show that should be left alone, but I'm pretty sure they won't. Please, American media, don't make another one. We don't need it. We don't want it. But yeah, I hope they don't do a season 2. It's a show that I feel like will have a season 2 though. Well, in fairness, there are some loose ends, so maybe it could still be as tight as season 1. Be like a whole new cast of people because everybody did. And I don't know, will we care as much about the second people? Probably not. So what are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think, Kendall, Sangwoo is the worst or Gihun is the best? I'd love to hear. You're wrong though. Just letting you know beforehand, you are absolutely, positively incorrect. I would still like to hear the discourse in the comment section, or read the discourse, whatever. Anywho, that's all for today, folks. If you liked today's video, feel free to like today's video. Follow me on all my social media, Instagram and Twitter, both of which are KennieJD. And I will see you guys next time. Bye. 무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다. I would have won that one though. I would have f***ed up the Targona one because I'm heavy-handed. Tug of war, toss up. Glass game I would have won because I would have immediately gone for the last place. I don't even know how to play marbles. And I still don't really get 오징어 game. I don't really understand the rules of that. So like I had a 4 out of 6 chance. I would have been and for the last 2 again, I would have just started biting.